do you hate rules? Do you hate people telling you what to do or, books laying out, principles of how to live life? Well, today you're in luck because we're going to talk about why you should fuck the golden rule. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm dating everybody. Randy, what's up, Randy?
Yo, Danny,
So, Randy, have you ever found yourself angry with the golden rule?
this week had a couple prime examples. So, I mean, when people talk about the golden rule, they're like, do unto others as you want done unto yourself. And oftentimes this comes down to like turn the other cheek, you know? But I had a couple like obnoxious experiences this week at the gym. So, one, this dude came from the pool, had a towel, but I mean, he was holding a towel with him, but he just didn't towel off. And so he like literally there's a pool of water from the pool into the locker room, like right in front of my locker. And
I hate that.
and in my mind, I'm having this golden rule. I was like, just be chill, turn the other cheek. But like I'm sandwiched between my locker and this giant puddle. And I'm like, you know what? F it. Like if I was that retarded, I would want somebody to say to me, like, open your eyes. And
But you
so
know what? This is the thing. No, I agree. I know what you're saying though too, because like, dude, it's this like narcissistic like behavior where like all that matters is me. My world's all that exists, and it seems like everybody's like that now. And I swear it's like the screens and stuff make people feel like a bloated sense of importance or whatever. But like,
mhm.
dude, the other day I was walking my dog. There's a guy. He's just stopped in the road about 8 feet from a stop sign. There's a parking lot right next to him, and he's just on his phone. Just stop in the middle of the freaking road. I'm like, yo. But it's like nobody else exists. It's
Yeah.
just, and then it's like, if you're really like that, shouldn't somebody tell you?
So that's what gave me the idea for this episode because I was standing like trapped at my locker. I hadn't changed yet, but like I was standing trapped at my locker. Like, do I take off my shoes and my socks just get soaked, or do I tell this guy something, or do I just leave? Like, what am I doing? And so my first thing was golden rule: turn the other cheek, just be cool about it, and like, do whatever. But then I was like, f this, like if I was this obnoxious, I would want someone to tell me. So I turned to him and I was like, "Hey, can you clean that up? Like, you you soaked the locker
The
room." And he's
water
like,
everywhere.
"Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll get around to it when I'm done." And like at that point, I saw red. Steam came out of my ears, and I just closed my locker, locked it, and I walked out. And I just like got a glass of water, and I was like, "Okay, fine." So I gave him 5 minutes, and then I was walking back to the locker room so I could go do my workout. And as I was walking back, he was like, "Oh, I cleaned that up. Sorry about that." And I was like, "Okay, cool." But still, I was like, "What the
Yeah.
f is wrong with people?" And then it occurred to me,
But you did a good thing in that situation. At least you removed yourself, gave him a chance to do what he said he'd do and like to like prove to you. You know what I mean? Like, it's like sometimes that's helpful because you escalate it and then it gets worse and nothing actually gets improved.
right, right. And so like
Yeah.
it's also that thing of trying to find, actually you were talking about other things with gold, like golden egg, golden the goose with the golden egg, the golden gun, and
Yeah.
the golden mean. So trying to find that mean between like not saying anything. So that's kind of where I was. My initial thing was don't say anything. And I didn't want to escalate it too far. So like finding that golden mean between the two where it was effective communication that got something resolved and just like blowing a gasket.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up though, actually, because you know what I was thinking about was like we have these sayings and these rules, right? Like the golden rule, like do unto others you have them do unto yourself. And like they sound universal, like they should always apply. But should they? Because there's also other systems, like you just mentioned. Like, dude, the virtue ethics, the Greeks, the golden mean. There are situations justifiable in virtue ethics where you could say something to somebody else. In fact, you ought to, because they're doing something that's contrary to virtue, right? They're doing something acting like an idiot. And sometimes it's better to tell someone. So, like, there are different views on it. So maybe, like, it's not right to do that because we just allow people to, like, foster these idiotic self-images and act like assholes without any kind of checks and balances. I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm still trying to figure out how to do this because I think like the next day or something at the gym, uh, I was doing this like the farmer's carry with these heavy weights. Okay. And so I was walking back and forth with them. and it's kind of exhausting. You can walk like one length of the gym and then you have to stop because it's just like, or else you're going to drop them. And so,
Yeah.
I walked, I turned around, I dropped. And then this guy comes up, and there's all, it's this big open room. And this guy comes up, and there's also like a put chin up bars in the middle. And he starts doing this like crazy hanging thing right in front of the line that I was using there. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Maybe he didn't see me. I move over and I do a line there. And while he's doing his crazy hanging thing, and then I come back and put him down. And then he gets some like massage thing and goes and puts it right in front of where I was walking the second time. And I was like, this mother effer, like you can't make this stuff up. And so, I again, my thing is like,
Yeah.
let's be kind. Like he's
Yeah.
clearly got something else going on. And I was walking to leave, and then I turned around and I was like, you know what? If nobody tells him this stuff, he's just going to go on doing this to
Yeah.
everybody forever. So I turned around and I went to him. I was like, hey, listen, like when you went in front of me those two times where I was working out, that comes off as very obnoxious and rude. And he's like, oh, did you want me to? And I'm like, no, I'm leaving now. But like, you got in front of me the one time, I moved, and then you went in front of me again. Like that just comes off
Yeah.
very rude. And he's like, oh. And it was, but it's just like,
But no.
I
Okay.
just look at my own life. I'm like, am I this obnoxious and rude to people and I just don't see it? Or is there something else going on?
See, this is the problem, right? Because this is what you worry about. Like, one, am I like that at times? Do I not notice it? And yeah, I'm sure there probably are times where I'm like that, it happens. But the other thing is like, I don't know, because like if we don't tell anybody either, nothing changes. And like most people, like especially you're not being actively mean, you're just saying what happened. Like most people, I think like they're just in their own world and they don't realize like that there's other people around, literally like don't even notice. And like so saying it is not going to usually cause a problem, but like as long as you're nice about it, you don't need to be mean about it. But like I think like you handled it pretty well. Like it is funny though, because like shouldn't we be saying something? Like I think
I think,
this is one of the
dude,
funny things with these rules, like where people think you shouldn't say anything, and it's like, but then nothing changes. And nobody's made aware of things. So how does it then apply? Like there has to be some social pressure
well,
for these
like
rules to
back in
work.
the day, I remember when we were kids, like somebody else's parents could still smack you. And
Yeah,
if
oh yeah.
your
Yeah.
parents found out that they had to smack you, you were gonna get smacked again. Because it was like,
What
why are
did you
you
do to
being
make them upset?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But like nowadays, nobody has a backbone. No parents will touch their children. No teachers discipline anybody. So it's like a free for all for everybody. And so basically, nobody ever gets any discipline. Like I remember back when I was working as a veterinarian, like if you find a stray cat that was a kitten without a mother, don't ever take that cat because without a mother to discipline that cat, it will be a terror, an absolute terror. And this is like almost 100% of the time that I've seen where people find these cats as kittens with no mother and they're an absolute terror. But
Because they
it's
have no
like,
checks.
yeah,
Yeah,
you
no
need
checks and
some type of
balances.
discipline when you're young in life. So, but
Well, dogs
anyways,
and cats, have you ever had like a puppy that doesn't have other puppies to play with? They don't learn the biting, how hard they're
mm-hmm,
biting.
yeah.
That's the other thing. Like you can see that, with dogs. I'm sure people have experienced that, where like a dog that bites too hard because they just don't know how to play. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good example.
Yeah. So, anyways, the golden rule. I mean, I guess it made me redefine the golden rule over the past week. Because
Hmm.
at first the golden rule was turn the other cheek, but that's clearly not the golden rule. The golden because it got me thinking. I was like, am I this obnoxious sometimes, and I don't see it? And I would personally want somebody to point out if I was being obnoxious and rude in that manner.
Well, here's one of the things I think we've lost, right? Is like morality is also about acting in the community, right? It's about how you act not only to yourself but towards others too. I mean, like turn the other cheek, right? Or like, treat others like you want to be treated, all those things. But I think that requires some information to be passed along, right? Like, because otherwise you're just letting people act like idiots and there is no checks and balances and nobody knows the system we're using. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, I think we
Mm-hmm.
should all try to be good people. And if we are trying, then we're more aware. But, a
Yeah.
lot of us aren't aware.
Yeah. I was thinking about that this week. It's like humans are inherently social animals, and I'm thinking if we're supposed to be inherently social, why is it so difficult?
I know, right? It's really hard. I've heard, it's funny though. I've heard there was a research, I can't remember the study on my head, but like where they were talking about the fact that like we live in such large communities now. Like they estimate the human brain can maintain roughly like 300 relationships, and that's stretching it. I mean, think about what you need to know somebody, right? Really know somebody. And now we're like with phones, with TV, with all this connection, our communities are huge, and it's like so we can't really like know our community in the same way. We don't have that sense of community, right? So you do feel more like an individual in a world rather than a member of, this town or this place or whatever. And I think
Hmm.
that's a big factor. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you got your community at work, you got your community at home, you got your community there, this, there, and the other. Whereas, like
You
back in
might
the day,
commute
it
an
was
hour and a
like,
half to work, dude.
you
Like
know,
that's
back in the
like,
day, it was a town of 60 people. It was like you
yeah.
were the baker, and that's it.
Or even if you lived in a city of 4,000, you were in this district with like the Tanners. And so that's like your community within the community, right? So you still have that like thing.
With
Now I don't
common
have
jobs,
that.
the bakers and the tanners.
Yeah, that's it.
There's also the blacksmith. Don't forget about the blacksmith.
Oh yeah, yeah. That is funny. It's funny how
Yeah.
last names are associated with jobs too.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So have you had any experiences recently with the golden rule?
I mean, other that guy parking was a good one. Just sitting there. I
You
do
know what?
see this a
Oh,
lot. Yeah, go ahead.
I
Yeah.
had this idea. So like I see what you mentioned with that guy standing in the middle of nowhere, like in basically the middle of traffic where he shouldn't be. I had this idea is that when I start seeing people like standing in the middle of a hallway or something, just looking at their phone, I'm just gonna go stand next to them and look at their phone. And then they'll be like, what? And I'll be like, well, clearly there's something super important that needs to be
On your
seen right
phone.
here. So I want to see it too, you know? And
Yeah.
just start making people feel really self-conscious about this, and maybe it'll catch on.
Just record their phone. I don't want to miss this.
Yeah.
Yeah. That might actually work. That would be funny. But this is the problem, right? Because you need some sort of social change for these things to happen. And I think
Mm-hmm.
like, look, I don't want to sound like I'm sure there's times where I'm like socially inept and miss something and do something that probably makes people upset or whatever. But like I try not to. And I try to be semi-aware of my surroundings, the people around me, like, driving, walking, doing things so that like, you know, the presentation I have of myself is like a decent person, right? Because I try to be. But like I think that's it. Like we just have to try more. All of us need to make an effort because like most of the time what happens, I think it's just people in their own world. I really do. Like it's not like they're not actively trying to be a jerk. They're just so not paying attention to anything else that they're acting like they would act like if they were by themselves at their house. Rather than like, oh, I'm in a locker room with other people. Like there's other people who also have interests and feelings and stuff that I need to account for, you know?
That's a good point. Like you remember how there used to be like this thing called manners, and they had like whole books of like what are the proper manners for dinner parties and all that different stuff. They really
Yeah.
need to develop like a norm of socially acceptable manners.
Wait, I wonder too, because like one of the problems is like there's been a lot of push, like a lot of that stuff was super sexist and stuff. So there's been a lot of pushback against it, which is fine. But like we don't have a new system in place, you know? It's like we don't have anything else to like, well then what does a person look like instead of like, etiquette for roles and gender, maybe about just like, well, what's a good person look like, you know? Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think you're right. Yeah, we don't kind of have that stuff anymore. And like, you know, I think that the sense of community makes it very hard. You do feel like an individual just
Mm-hmm.
wandering around like nobody knows you.
Yeah,
So
like I mean, here a perfect example. Like watching something on your phone without headphones in public transportation. Totally. I mean, I don't know. Different people have different opinions, but I feel like
yeah.
punching people when they do that.
Well, that's just the situation too of like, dude, you're so unaware of how you're affecting other people's environments, their experienced environment, right? It's like when you're on a plane and somebody does it, they have to sound really loud or something. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
you're in an
Everybody else
enclosed
has
environment.
headphones. They cost a
Yeah.
dollar. You could get them for
Yeah.
free from a million different places. But
If you ask, somebody would probably buy them for you, so you don't even think it's loud.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's it though. I think we need to call people out, but we also have to be examples ourselves and like, I think that's also a part of it. Try not to
Hmm.
be assholes too.
Yeah, it's walking a fine line. How to not do it too much. And so that's the thing that I struggle with because I struggle with doing too little. Like I
Yeah.
struggle with just suppressing my own voice and my own thoughts and my own opinions because I'm like, well, they're just my thoughts and opinions, and maybe this person could be right in their own world as well.
Sure, they are in their own world. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But this is
Yeah,
this
they're
is
like,
it though,
what's
right?
this
It's like
motherfucker telling me to turn my music off? This is my music. I bought this phone. Yeah,
it's awesome music, objectively good.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it is hard. And I think that's it though. I think people are just in their own worlds. Because dude, it happens. I see it so often now, way more than I used to. Like, dude, the other day I went shopping because of the holidays, and like the amount of people that just stop wherever they are in doorways and vestibules, like it's just absurd. Like you can't even walk around them. And you're just like, dude, come on.
yeah.
And they just stop looking at their phone. But I
I,
swear to God, I think our phones have made us more like we think we're more self-important. Everything seems to be important. It's right there. So yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah,
I know.
problem. I don't know
Yeah.
what we're gonna do.
Yeah. I
But I
do
agree
play
with
some
you.
games. So like I do
Oh,
play some games where when somebody's not looking up from their phone, I will just walk directly at them and keep walking directly at them. And I've hit some
nice.
people. That's it's humorous to me. It's rude, probably. But I
Oh,
mean, part of
but
part of walking is you need to look at somebody else so that you can navigate where you're going to go. If they're not going to participate in their half, I'm just walking right the fuck into them.
this is the other thing, right? Because it's like whenever we go out into the world, we're participating in a social world. Like
Yeah.
you can't help it. And I think you're right. They're like not participating. That's just it, right? They're not doing their half of the bargain, which is, dude, pay attention because you're out in the world. Like there's other
Dude,
people doing stuff.
and I think uh you know video like security cameras have made it too easy because literally if there were no security cameras, this would be the easiest time for robbers ever because
Oh, you just
nobody is paying
snatch it.
attention. Just walk up to somebody, put a gun right in their ribs and say, "Give me your wallet." Like easiest freaking thing ever.
Yeah, that's true. There is more cameras than ever though now too, for that very reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised too, because I remember seeing, this is going back a little ways, and maybe it is because of the camera thing. I remember seeing people like steal phones out of people's cars, just like reach in and take them, because like they can sell them too. And like it's almost surprising they don't just snatch them out of people's hands walking down the street. You could.
Yeah.
People are so engrossed. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's it though. Maybe we need to pay more attention individually, but also like make a more concerted effort to point things out because how else is it going to change?
Yeah, I think we need to
And have
embarrass
balance.
people. Like, I'm pretty sure the only way to make a change is to embarrass people when they're just doing this like socially ludicrous stuff.
Well, think about it, dude. If something happened, if you were just standing there and somebody said something, you might feel really embarrassed, but you probably will remember it after the fact, that like,
I'm pretty
hey,
like
like
that's the
I
thing.
was,
The two guys at the gym, I'm pretty sure well, I would think, who knows? I would think that they would at least like think twice about doing that stuff again.
and you maybe made them aware of it. Like if they didn't even notice it, like the guy with the water and stuff, like if he was just totally nothing, like
Oh, dude,
he
and that
probably
was the
felt bad
second
too.
time. That was actually the second day he did it because he did it 2 days before that, and I let it
Oh, then
slide.
you
I
had
didn't
every
say
right to
anything.
say something.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Because no, that's the hard thing too. Because it's like I know what you mean. Like somebody's having something happens like that. If it's the first time too, it's like, well, maybe they're having a bad day. You don't want to like. Because you don't know. Like, what if his parent just died or something and he's just totally went to the gym to work off some energy and totally just not there, right? But two times,
yeah, right.
no. Like, and I think maybe that's it. Like, give people, turn the other cheek at first, but if it's a repeated thing, then say something. That's the line,
Mhm.
maybe.
Golden rule. And
Yeah.
also taking a look at the other side of the golden rule. So like these people who are obnoxious, does that then mean that they just want to be treated like shit?
Right? Well, this is the problem with morality in general, right? Because we often think of it, I think, as a community thing where you're participating in a moral community. But the problem is a lot of people aren't. And so, should I treat them the same way if they're not participating in the same community? The other way to look at that is that morality is really about my own development and growth, not about anybody else. And about me being a good person. In which case, it doesn't matter what the community is doing. But this is the conundrum, right? Because I think this is exactly the problem here.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is interesting because a lot of people don't play by the golden rule at all. Like
No.
you remember that guy who I was friends with who started doing some really illegal stuff where he was going to start robbing from people and I heard about it and I was like I tried to tell him not to do it and he was
Yeah.
like no, I'm going to do it anyways. And so I eventually stopped being friends with him. But like when I was trying to like when I was talking with him about it, I was like, dude, you can't do that. Like would you want someone to do this to you or your family? He's like, no, absolutely not. And I was like, the only way to guarantee that it will happen to you and your family is for you to continue doing it. And he just couldn't
Yeah.
see that logic. He's like, no, 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 I protect my family. Like, I won't let this happen. And I was like, it doesn't make sense.
You're participating in a world where it becomes a reality. So yes, it can happen. The only way
Yeah.
not to have it happen is not to do it at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
But
like, a
that's
lot of
just it
people,
though.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think there is truth to like where they a lot of times people will they'll have to bite the bullet on that at some point. I'm sure something's gonna happen karma wise to him at some point because usually if you're doing crap like that, you're putting yourself in risky situations. So eventually one of those is gonna bubbles is gonna burst, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like yeah. Yeah, it's tough. And I think this is it though. Like I've asked myself this a lot because I've taught ethics for a long time. Like, is it really about me being the best person I can be, or is it about the world? Because if it's about the community, we need, people have to participate, and that might mean actually communicating when people fail to try and make everybody better. But that's also a difficult position to be in. So, yeah, it is a line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like you got to be the best you can be, and you have to work to make the community better.
Yeah,
Crazy. The world
but I
seemed a
think for
lot
people, I
easier
think
when we were younger.
it was. Yeah. A lot less stresses, right? And things to worry about. And like, yeah, you're just not a lot as aware of stuff too.
It was just like there was, it seemed like there were like societal norms. Nowadays, it's like societal norms is big, like taboo.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. And and it's hard because I think like, yeah, there's a lot of bad norms. We do need them to a certain extent too. We could change them. It'd be nice to have better ones. We have to actually make that happen. That's
Hmm.
the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Mm. The golden rule.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's tough. I
He
think
who
though, I
has
do agree.
the, right now, the golden rule in America is he who has the gold makes the rules.
Literally, and that's also
Yeah.
sad, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think for everybody else out there, though, I think like if somebody does something repeatedly, like the guy in the gym, you should say something. That's my opinion. Be nice about it. There's no reason to start conflict, but like it
Hmm.
doesn't, because I mean, I would want to know, And that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. It ended up working out better than I thought it would have, honestly.
Why do we always are afraid of communication? It's so weird. That's the number one way we know anything. And yet, like, you know
No,
what I
the
mean?
number one way I know is by reading minds, clearly.
Yeah, it's by my brain power.
Yeah.
My mind power. Yeah, it's just funny though, because like it's the truth. Like, I mean, we're always so afraid of it, yet it is the most efficient way to solve problems.
Hmm.
And I think the biggest thing there though is being nice, not being a dick about it. Because you don't need to be like, yo, asshole, like, live with
Hmm.
the puddle, but just saying, like, can you please get that or something, like
Yeah.
the mess you made.
And I think it worked that I walked away after addressing it instead of just like being like pissed off or, you
Dude,
know,
think about it. If you were pissed off just standing there looking at him, you would have made him angry, right?
yeah,
Because that's like, oh, he's gonna watch me until I do it. Like,
yeah,
I think people forget that too. You gave him an opportunity to do the right thing without being watched or
yeah.
judged or anything. He left. And I think that's the other thing is give people space to actually give them a chance and the opportunity to make the correction. That's
Hmm.
good advice too. Yeah.
Yeah. Bingo.
There you have it then. All right. So fuck the golden rule. We probably need to think a lot about these questions, and who knows where we'll be in the future. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Listen, yeah, wherever you get podcasts and watch on YouTube. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a review. Helps us out a lot. We'll be back later this week with a quick fix. Until then, though, later.
Later, Danny.